All right, good day to you. I say we're anxious again to go into the field. It's documentary time. And how precious it is as we move throughout these United States and in Central America, looking for those signs that were left long, long ago, some ancient, some not so ancient, and we thank our Father for the privilege that we have in piecing together the puzzle of the migrations of various peoples. Interested in Israel? Yeah, of course we're interested in Israel. And we find many signs sprinkled in, but there were many other people here. You can never deny that. I find it interesting in studying alphabets as we continue expanding into new areas in pictographs and drawings, whatever, alphabets, that many of the letters of the various alphabets seem oftentimes to have the same origin, perhaps. Different meaning, yes. We're working on that, and it takes a great deal of legwork and groundwork to piece together the puzzle, to see these various alphabets and sign writing, I will call it, from around the world, knowing that people had commerce. And we're going to go to Arizona in this documentary, to beautiful Lake Lymon, just out of St. John's, Arizona. What a beautiful place. Well equipped as far as modern conveniences are concerned for those that have RVs that ever would enjoy visiting there. And I could not say enough for the state rangers of Arizona that manned this facility. They were some of the most helpful and certainly interested in what we were doing, to the point simply of being helpful, yes. But we were so well treated that if any of you happen to be passing through that part of the country, this is one of those documentaries that we can identify the location, and you can see for yourself 3-story buildings that were back in the 800-900 area, and see them as they were, though they are and will be redug in the near future or not too distant future. I think you'll find this area fascinating. As we continue our quest into that search, a search, will it have an end? I think not. Probably not in this earth age. But as we continue probing the stones, the valleys, the rivers, for those signs left by pre-Columbian and yes, those since Columbus even, as they left their sign across this land, whereby we study the ancient people and how precious and how priceless it is. So we invite you along on this one. You're going to go with us. What a beautiful place. I know you'll enjoy it. Let's be on our way.
See, the park actually dates from 10,000 BC all the way up to modern Zuni. The earliest known areas were the Clovis culture, which within the park boundaries we found Clovis points. So we know that we have that culture here. And then it works its way up through from 6,000 to 100 BC is considered the Archaic period. 100 BC to roughly 700 BC is what they call Basket Maker 1 through Basket Maker 3, which is the start of the Anasazi culture. And Anasazi means ancient one in the Navajo language. It's believed that the present-day Pueblo Indians of northeast Arizona and northwest New Mexico are direct descendants from the Anasazis. The 700 AD to 900 AD is Pueblo I, which marks the Anasazi entry into the ground village way of life. Examples are Chaco Canyon, Canyon de Say, Four Corners region. A representation of this pottery is in our display case, one of the ones that we showed you when you came out the first time. 900 AD to 1150 AD is Pueblo III, which shows a dramatic increase in population and the number of villages that started to grow around the area, each with its own kiva or two, which is a large ceremonial area that we'll be able to see. The importance of this period is the emergence into agricultural technology, where they actually started their farming and irrigation, which is one of the reasons that the valley here between St. John's and Springerville has been so important, is the fact we've always had the constant running water source plus the natural basalt boulders to form caves and caverns and areas for people's habitation. You know, there's three things you need. You need food, air, shelter, and water, actually four things, to survive. Well, this area stretched down here provided it all. That's one of the reasons we've had such a large, compressed area of time growth and population growth. The 1150 to 1300 AD is Pueblo III, where they actually executed the ceramics, formalized system of trading and communication, well-functioning irrigation and water systems. And then from 1300 AD to 1590 AD, which is Pueblo IV, that's right around, that was the peak of their culture, their polychrome culture, where you get the really pretty four-color pots and ceramics. They figured right around 1540 AD is when Coronado came up through the valley, entered this area, and 1598 was when actually the white settlers came up through. The trail area we're going to follow up through here in the rock art, we're going to see dates from Archaic period all the way up to, from what we've been told, modern Zuni. So we're going to see a large time period of stuff.
That's great. Great.
See, here's the first trail marker, the world famous Valvoline
That's
can.
the Valvoline, yeah.
Yeah. we use natural stuff to follow our way through here. I get myself in trouble. You've got two distinct types of petroglyphs. One of the outstanding features is this little squiggly up here is what we kind of refer to the park here as our snake symbol. It shows up more and more almost on every rock you'll find around here. This type right here was pecked out using a stone tool, and then probably a bone tool, and then actually rubbed out. That's why it's so distinct looking. This type down here, the design, the etching design, was strictly just a pecking. You'll find 4 to 5 distinct types of petroglyph makeup, where you actually, the earliest type is what they call archaic, and it's just a scratch on the rock. We'll see some of those a little later on. Well, down here at the bottom you can see our snake figure again, this time with a stylized head. This one right here, the one with multiple legs, we've been told by the archaeologists it could indicate a journey, a person, multiple sets of legs, or a family tree. You have multiple sets of families here. This pattern up here is the Pueblo IV type pattern that was actually where they used a bone tool and then a rock to chisel out and then scrape out the X's. This pattern here is a lot of what you'll find up in the area on pottery. It's a lot of close to our pottery designs. And then we've got the stylized features of probably animals. We're not really sure. What we've been told by archaeologists is you can kind of read into these almost anything you want to see. As we go farther up, you'll be able to see that towards the Pueblo IV period, where they're so perfectly done, they'll become more and more detailed. Your very, very early ones are sketchy and light, and also the difference in color will tell you the age. The dark surface of the rocks are called desert patina, or desert varnish, and that's what they actually pecked off. So the older rocks that have been exposed to the sun longer, these petroglyphs will be lighter and darker, and you'll actually see petroglyphs laid on top of other petroglyphs as we go farther up the trail. You're welcome to ask any questions about anything that looks interesting to you.
There was one group that came up from Calmocaco down in the Gulf, and they used a pattern like in that bottom pattern there for a calendar. And if you count across, like you got on points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the 12 moons of the year. I'm not saying that's,
Yeah.
it really, you see what I'm talking about? You're familiar.
All the ones we'll see have had almost no late model vandalism. In fact, what we'll show you about 2 more rocks up is we'll show you what the petroglyphologists used to call late model vandalism. What they now have figured out is actually archaic petroglyphs. Because of the time period and the way they're laid on top of each other, it would have been physically impossible to do what has been done late model and have it happen.
They say we could leave some equipment if we were coming back.
Oh, we can come back right back by here.
Just right up by that shrub right up there.
There's not, you can't really feel any difference.
The other thing is you shouldn't touch it. Our hand oil will cause a deterioration after
More
a
so
period of
than
time.
the erosion even.
Oh yeah. The oils evidently on our hands are extremely corrosive to the patina in the area.
And what are the dark? You know,
This
see
is,
how it seems like
well,
the
this is
face of
actually
it's-
where rock is sheared off over the period of years.
And this is older, the level, the face level here is
Right.
older than what's here.
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah.
as far as exposure wise.
time-wise, yeah. That's the other thing they're having trouble dating them is depending on which way they're pointing towards the sun is how much sun exposure they get. Okay, the stylized person right here, from what we've been told, is when you show a three-toed person, they were a normal, everyday, common person. When you start to pick up more than 3 toes, the 4 or 5 fingers, then you were talking about chiefs, shamans, that type of person. This swirl right here, we've been told by different archaeologists, it indicates possibly a cave, an area, habitation, or down into. Farther on the rocks, we've actually got an area like this that looks like the map of what we're going to be walking up. Here again is our snake figure that shows up on almost all of our rocks. This one, these 2 little figures here with the toes, I really have no idea what they represent. Down here we have a very early one. You can just barely make it out by the shading. And that's the way the desert patina wears and actually discolors as the years go by. Yeah, it's obviously a human figure, and we've got the 3 toes, which means it was probably just a normal everyday person. But the odd thing is the arrow or spear or whatever that's in its hand, and whether or not it's pointing to this stylized animal, we're not really sure. They're close to the same period and style of work. You can see here that they used a rock just to peck. There wasn't a stone tool used, because you can see how the chippings go the same way with the small animal down here. What they do indicate, here's some of the scratches we were talking about. They used to think that these scratches were modern vandalism, but as you can see here where this scratch goes up into the start of this pecking area, the pecking area is actually over the top of the scratching. So obviously this scratching predates the pecking, which means what they've kind of said, the scientists have said and the archaeologists, is that the scratchings are your earliest type of petroglyphs. They're archaic, and normally they were just diagonal type lines hooked together. And they had to put them out here for a reason. You know, the culture and life was so hard, the existence was so hard, that you just didn't have time to hang around and make artwork. They had to mean something. As we work up the trail up here, the clan sign, the snake, and also the turtle will become more and more evident. Could be. Now I have another one up here that's perfect that we've been told is either an antelope or a cat.
Yeah. It's got a long, long tail on it.
Yeah, and they're not. What we've been told is this is most likely where they laid their hides over to work the fat and the fur off the hides to turn them into clothing, whatever utilities that they used. And that's what's caused that rubbing where it's actually rubbed the desert patina off. We find this on almost any smooth saddle or rock around areas where there was habitation. You know, we think of, we buy our clothes out of the store. These people literally had to work those hides down, raw hides down soft.
You know, that first stone we were at down there was a marker pointing to this out.
As we did
That circle going, a line coming up, way down low, line coming up. And I thought, there couldn't be any water up. Usually like if it was a water sump or a pit, but it wasn't water they were marking out, it was this hide
It's probably been the trail. We've got a rock up here that we call Arrow Rock, and it points right straight up where we're going to be going.
Wow.
And it has the Snake Clan sign on it. Our next stop is out through here through the valley when we overlooking a the pottery's been dated at roughly around the Pueblo III area, which is 1150 AD to 1598 AD. That is normally underwater by the lake level. The reason we show it is so that people that are walking around, when they see a pile of rocks, that they, you know, to me that just looks like a pile of rocks. That was actually somewhere in the area of 30 to 40 rooms plus storage rooms. And that's what they look like after the erosion takes place and the walls actually start to settle.
Well, if it was that big, then we're talking about quite a bit of people around here.
Oh yeah, some of the areas around the lake will get into room block areas of 300 to 400 rooms, 3 stories high. The amount of habitation that's compressed within the park area is just really incredible when you begin to actually walk along the beach and look at it. When I first got here 4 years ago, people kept telling me there were a lot of Indian ruins around the lake, and until Tom started to show me what was here, I couldn't really fathom how many people had lived here for that many years. You know, we're here now in our modern day with a state park and all of our amenities. These people lived out here literally in rock buildings and harvested corn or plants or whatever they could find to live off of, and yet they survived through this period. Yeah, there's been almost no vandalism on these, like we've said, which is just fantastic. This is one of our 2 Thunderbirds that we found. You can see that it's of the design where they actually used the stone to peck it out, but then didn't rub it out or use a stone tool. You can see the start of the facial expressions. The interesting thing is we've been told the dots are indicative of something. They seem to find dots here and also in the 4 Mile Ruin area. We've also been told that the wings with the slices going down indicates rain or lightning. We call them thunderbirds. I've had people tell me they're ravens. I've had people tell me these look kind of like butterflies from other areas. The one that we'll see a little farther up is much more detailed, has a perfect face with headdress, looks like an antenna. Okay, well down here is what the archaeologists consider to be the earliest type petroglyphs. It's an archaic type which was anywhere from 8 to 10,000 BC. And all they are just these little straight-in V type lines. Originally, they thought these were actually graffiti done by modern people, but when they started to look closer, they found out that these scratched lines go underneath this pecked out figure, which when you go through time frame, your first type of petroglyph was just a straight scratching. Your second type is up in this direction, which was just where they took a rock and rubbed it, trying to get some type of stylized picture out. That's your second time frame. Your third time frame goes back down to the V'd lines area, where they just took a rock and they pecked out the picture. And a lot of these areas are quite stylized. When you go into your latest and most stylized or most exact type, you come up into a type that was pecked out using probably a bone tool with a stone and actually chiseled out where they're concave. This one right here is real significant for us at the park because it's a turtle, and just 70 miles north east of us is the Zuni Reservation, which is still to this day known as the Turtle Tribe or Turtle Clan. They come overland from Zuni 70 miles down to the park's buffalo pen in 2 or 3 ceremonies a year to come down to hunt their turtles and actually take them back for whatever their religious ceremonies are. This rock right here represents, from what we've been told by the archaeologists, from like 10,000 years BC all the way up to 1500 AD. There was habitation in this valley and people actually drawing these pictures on these rocks. We're going to move on up around this rock and actually pick up the original trail that these all seem to follow up to our main rock, which we call Ultimate Rock at the top of the trail.
All kinds of figures on there.
Oh, it's just, well, you can even see them over here. Little one up here. See, now that one's your late model. That's, yeah, well, it's not only, it's been used a tool to help chisel it out and then rub it out, so it's actually concaved. It's where they used a stone as a hammer and then had a bone or another artifact to chisel it out. So you end up with a very straight line edge, and it's actually concaved. When the grass starts to grow, we had grass on both sides, but nothing on this trail. And it gets more and more distinct as we work our way up the hill. Okay. What we've got here is we've been told by the archaeologists that these could indicate either a ladder or actually plots of land where they actually laid out down in the valley, and these were the growing plots that were assigned to different families. But here again, here's our trusty little snake symbol that shows up on almost every rock we've seen. That symbol has been on these rocks. We're not sure whether this is a ladder or plots of land. Your guess is as good as mine. You can see some earlier rubbings over here, but right now, this is kind of the start of the main trail that will work up, and it gets more and more definite as we get closer to Ultimate Rock. Curious about this stuff, so we just started strolling along and then tripped over what we call Ultimate Rock. But probably what we've been told people. The arrow, we just call this arrow rock because it seems to point right up the trail towards where we're going to our Ultimate Rock goal. On the side over here, we've got the archaic V. On this face of the rock over here, we've got the archaic V-type scratchings with our snake symbol again shows up over the top of them. And then we've been told this is possibly a stylized person complete with the headdress up here, because the Hopis and the Zunis both did wear that type of headdress, the hair out in that period. And this is directly on up the trail that we'll be moving. But even underneath there, you can see right here, you can see the snake symbol still there below it. You've got the other rock pecking type on this type of rock, and then even up top here, if you want to step over and come on up. This is actual modern day graffiti. That's the way you can really tell that somebody's written their name and scratched in F9 right on top of them. That's why, yeah, it shows up very distinctively.
That's just another figure there.
Yeah, that's just, it's a, well, that's your basic rock type pecking figure, which would be your third style.
Now,
See,
is this one ancient and that one isn't, right?
no, these here are both modern.
Oh, yeah, okay. I got
See,
you.
here's his name.
Yeah.
In fact, we could probably back chase him unless somebody didn't like the guy. Because you have to remember that your archaic symbols will be in just a jagged series of V's.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really do any writing. They just put in V's like this in just a single line, not multiple lines. This is one of the few rocks over here that has been vandalized, and it was done before we actually started working on the trail. It's something.
I mean, is that?
It's a pointer, probably. Are we still headed
We're
up?
still headed that way.
See, it points that one of the old Indian ways is that this points and it's on that side of the rock. See, it doesn't give you the whole.
The one he's pointing at right there, that's the peck.
Something's on this.
That's marking their territory, or
We think so.
showing the trail?
Well, I think they're marking their territory.
When he's coiled, you're at the main place, and when he's traveling, it's still territory, wouldn't you say?
I'd
It's
say
a
so. They're,
possibility?
you know, the people were territorial. They had laid plots out during the Pueblo IV period where they were actually doing farming. So you're going to have to be able to mark your land or your territory some way and identify yourself to other clans traveling through. You know, if you were part of the Turkey clan and coming through, well, you'd instantly know that this area was controlled by the Snake clan. That's one of the ways they found out how to distinguish clan signs, is they repeat over and over and over again on almost every rock. Now, right up here to our left, I think it's my left, right on top of this one rock, there are human, you can see the one human footprint over the top. There are a couple more on the back side. That's all that's on that rock. When you get a little closer, it's definitely the human type footprint.
Wow.
And those are toes on it? Or?
Yeah, those are toes, and that's a 4 or 5 toed person. Now we're back to our shaman or priests or kings.
And at the top of the mountains where they're always located.
Yeah.
Right up where the altar is.
This one, we'll start off again. Here's our trusty little snake symbol. And this is the latest type of petroglyph where they actually used a tool and a stone to chip out the center and clean it all out. Plus this one you can even see the starting of the snake head with a mouth open, which is a very late model, probably your Pueblo IV period. This design right here is found on a lot of pottery around the Snowflake area and St. John's area. We think it's just a pottery design. You know, your guess is as good as mine. The same way as this area down here is a Pueblo IV, because they actually used a tool to clean it out. You can see how exact and perfect it is. But yet it's still in that same type V that the early Archaic period was done in. You've got a series of stars, or we've been told possibly turkey tracks or footprints. Here's our little turtle symbol again that shows up, and probably some other types of animals, no telling what they are. And it's these here are your 4th type stylized version, where they not only chipped them out, but they scraped them. They're extremely concaved and dug out from the centers.
Yeah, that's something.
It's something. You know, here we are, another arrow that points at Ultimate Rock. You pick it out. I have no idea. This is our best rendition of what we call a Thunderbird. You've got the complete face with some type of headdress, which a lot of the Hopis and Zunis stylized their hair to come out to the side. You've got the multiple dots in the body again that we saw on the one below. Your feet have 4 toes on it, undoubtedly have a joint of some type to it. The tail is not just a triangle, it shows the tail feathers hanging down. Plus underneath the wing you've got what we kind of think looks like a scorpion tucked in here, and the wing feathers also hang down. It's the 4th period type, the highly detailed style. Right above it we've been told that this could be either a cat or an antelope. And we also find this same one in the up in the petrified forest area, almost identical to what this looks like. Which the petrified forest is about, Tom, how far is the forest from us? From here, miles-wise? Yeah. We find this one up in the petrified forest almost identical. So we're not sure, we're also not sure what this means. Whether this is a rendition of possibly that they hunted it and they killed it. The antelope are found native in this area and have been here for a long period of time. This one, it's some type of an animal. It could be a dog. During the Pueblo IV period, the Anasazis had domesticated dogs and turkeys besides being farmers. So that could actually be a dog. This is what you've heard us refer to as Ultimate Rock. The thing about this petroglyph stone is the fact that we've been told by the Forest Service people that it indicates at least 6 time periods, starting from Archaic all the way up to probably what we know is Pueblo IV, all through the periods. One of the interesting things that we began to notice when we started hiking this trail and working it was the fact that this petroglyph right here is just about where we came up. And if we take the circular orbiting type styles, and some people have told us that means possibly a cavern, cave, or habitation, in exactly the same direction off the end of this rock, the park has a ceremonial cave. And overland, the rights and lefts begin to line up to right here at this apex where we call Ultimate Rock. And this is just our fantasy or idea of it, but the more we walk it, the more obvious it seems to become. What we haven't had time to check was to go back off in this direction and see if we pick up another ceremonial cave, which would be just basically off to the east of us. Some of the interesting aspects of the rock, if we work around the top, is there are a series of X's or stars that work all the way around it, just completely around the points. And as you shoot the rock from different angles, you'll begin to see that there's petroglyph laid on top of petroglyph that's laid on top of petroglyph. This area down here at my feet, we haven't excavated it yet, but you can see here that the petroglyphs go right down underneath the rock and the stonework around the edge. We've got two of the highlights that Peter Pillis from the Forest Service has told us is right up here, as we have two renditions of Kokopella, the flute player, which is, they refer to him as, he's some type of spiritual leader. He has a humpback, which people have said that was his traveling pack for when he was kind of a wandering god of some type. We've also got human footprints on the rock that lead up and over the rock from the very edge, come completely up and over, and then right up on top is an excellent rendition of what looks to be a stylized turkey, which during the Pueblo IV period, these people did domesticate. Can you pick that one up there? Or do you need to, if you need to, climb up on the rock and take a shot. That's the only way you're going to get it.
Let's cover these on the bottom.
Okay. This one right here is the one we refer to our Eric von Daniken, Chariots of the Gods. This is our spaceman. If you'll notice, one of the highlights of it is the 5 fingers. We've been told by archaeologists that the 5 fingers indicated that you were either a shaman or a chief or very high up in the tribe. What people refer to as the helmet or the space helmet was actually probably the aura supplied by the hallucinogens that the Indians took. And this was the aura they saw afterwards. But if you'd like to, you can say that the UFOs came here and this is our spaceman where he landed. Hey, I don't know what this stuff means. You know, I've just been told by other people. We've got another rendition of the humpback flute player, Kokopella, here. It's no matter which direction you shoot this rock from, you keep coming up with lighter and darker petroglyphs every place. They're just laid on top of each other. Look real close. The way we've done it is if you can stand here and defocus your eyes, the lower ones begin to rise out. The other thing that Bob did was he used a polarized lens and then shot from different angles at different times of the day, and all of a sudden the others started rising up. Peter Pillis, who's from the Forest Service, walked up here, and because of this one rock right here, next year they'll be bringing the Petroglyphology school to the park because of the time zones and what's represented here. He's never seen a more condensed area. You know, you've got your little animals, and then you've got something under here.
So they're probably going to excavate down to the bottom of the rock.
They probably will. If they don't, we will. I've got to pull this back, and then we'll come up with a fencing, just a low fencing here to keep people back.
Good.
Because, as I said, on August 6th, there will be a designated trail that comes up here. Well, you figure that even on this rock down low, you can see the archaic scratchings, which are 10,000 years BC, and then we can go all the way up to the Cocapella figures of the 4 stylized version, which is about 1500 AD, all represented on this rock. Actually, where he's standing right under his feet is another petroglyph that was done before the rock split. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I understand that we're going to have to do this a little bit. We walked all over this thing trying to figure out how to shoot it. You know, and unless you had a crane up here, there's only one way to do it.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons when the school comes back next year, they will do every glyph on here and probably give us overlays. We're hoping for plastic overlays that we can go back through the time periods and say, okay, here's the first layer, here's the second layer, and we'll use that for our interpretive programs with the schools and folks that come to visit us, to try to give them a real feeling for how extensive this rock is.
You get some of that old stuff out from under there on an overlay, you'll be surprised over.
Oh, it's probably going to be, every time I come up and look at it, I come up on an average about once every 2 weeks bringing a tour group up like yourself or other people, and I see more each time I come up. What's really got me interested, though, is the possibility that that could be the trail.
You know, I would say so, and I would say that those stars or crosses mark out their overall
Well,
map.
if you want to see how close it is, if you stand over here, Doctor, and look straight through this gap, you see that dark slot in the hillside over there?
Uh-huh.
On the back side of that slot is the ceremonial cave.
Wow.
Well, that would just about put you over
Oh,
there.
for
Yep.
heaven's sakes.
And that's
That means you got another one over here.
right. And we're going to, when we walk back, we will walk down another trail that does exactly what we're going to do.
Wow.
We just have not located that other structure, whether it be a pueblo or a cave.
Wow.
About a year and a half ago, Tom Fisher was walking along the shoreline here to the lake when he noticed this outline. And at that time, sticking on the ground right in this area were about 7 complete pots. Plus, right over in here, there was a clay hearth, which was actually the cooking hearth used during this period. What has happened to the site is about 6 months after that, we had some vandals come in looking for pots and run sticks through the ground, breaking up the hearth, breaking up the general area, destroying most of the pottery. This pottery from the era is about 750 AD, is characterized as just ugly. It's just black. Sometimes it's red. It's very rough. It doesn't look like it's kiln fired or anything else. We've got some of the pictures that you took in the office of that dark pottery are the pieces that we've glued back together and brought over after the damage was done. The archaeologists have told us that this whole area in here probably comprises about 50 or 70 rooms with burials. We found one adult burial and one child skeleton back in here that's now starting to come to surface. We've been told by the archaeologists that we probably have one of the few sites, adamantine sites in Arizona, that has burials still in it. Top on our way through. This is a storage, probably a grain storage area next to one of large pit houses. We're just right up above the bluff where the adamantine sites are located at. And you can overlook the valley and see where a lot of the agricultural farming took place. It's either a pit house or a ceremonial kiva. It's that large. But it's one of about 5 surrounding the circumference of the rocks that we have here in the cave that we'll be working around. Everything, the trail and area we're working up through now, all culminates at a ceremonial cave. So basically the tour we've started at was we went through some archaic time. We've come up into 700 BC. This is probably up into the Anasazi Pueblo 2 or 3, which is 1000 AD right in there, 1200. Then we're going to work our way all the way up to the Pueblo 4 period of the Anasazis, which is around 1500. Told us This area all through here has had constant habitation at one time or another, from prehistoric all the way up to our modern people. That's the reason on all the slopes that we're walking on, you'll see what they refer to as burial brush that indicates ground disturbance in years past. It's one of the key highlighters that'll tell you that something has happened to the earth in that area that was artificially disturbed in some way.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's another one over here. And then this is the one I've never been able to explain. It's Coronado's venture up through here.
That could be.
We know he had to come up this valley. When you stand back here and look, you can envision coming up with 500 horse soldiers that you have to feed and water.
Yeah.
You're not going to go very far off the beaten path. It's what we've seen on the other ones up here that to us look like that spiral that goes to the
So
center.
we're showing the
Right.
cave over here.
And see, we are on the direct line up to the cave now.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the entrance to the ceremonial cave at Lymon Lake State Park. It's known, the archaeologists have kind of called it, for some reason it shows up in the readings as the Thule Cave, probably because that in the period that it was used, there were a lot of reeds and tules along the riverbed. The cave is more of a slot than it is a cave as most people think of it. It goes back maybe 100, 200 feet in the first chamber. We've been told that there's an upper chamber that we have not explored and possibly 2 lower chambers that we haven't explored. There's been extensive pot hunting done out of this cave. In fact, the sandals in the Apache County Museum came out of this cave years back before the archaeological laws went into effect. We're going to be going the Baca ruins. If you look straight down the lake here, you'll see a yellow spot within the brown and green bushes way down there. Just one little yellow, looks like bump. Straight down from us. That is a 3-story pueblo.
Oh, okay, there I got it now. Yeah.
The whole valley, as you're panning, direction you're panning, is all basically ruins. It starts from the Anasazi sites on down to what you're looking at now is a prehistoric site area between the 2 canyons, dated back in the Archaic period. If you continue to sweep in that direction, you'll see where we went up and into the hills to go up the Petroglyph Trail.
Yeah, over there, right?
Yeah.
On the other side of that ridge.
A little farther along. Kind of aim right through that green spot at the island. There you go. Well, you notice as you stand here and you look over the saddle right across from us, see the trail show up?
Uh-huh.
That's the way you'll spot trails. When you're working hillsides, you'll look out. It'll be just saddle. That's the way you start tracking trails. Now that trail continues on across to where we hook onto it on the Petroglyph Trail.
We went this way instead of...
Right, we just shortcut into it. That's why we're pretty sure it connects from this ceremonial cave right straight across. If we could ever find what we think is that other trail and cave, that would be, you know, extremely significant to the fact that we've proven it. What's here? But this thing slopes all the way down into the trees, then up onto the top. You can actually see where the rooms are settling. We know there's open rooms underneath here by what's been exposed. just through the area. We figure the Pueblo dates probably from very early basket maker periods all the way up to Pueblo 4, which was the peak of their culture. I can pick the pot out. It also shows the type of plastering on the walls. The fact that in the later Pueblo period, they actually did plaster the walls with something to give it what we consider more of a finished look to the building. We know how intact this whole ruin is. From the areas that have opened up, we've found the original wood roof beams. You'll find a lot of the St. John's polychrome, which is your top line Pueblo 4 pottery. This is a classic example how one civilization builds on another. Because basically what these people did was, as the families expanded, they added more rooms. Well, if Grandma died, they put her over in a side room and packed her in garbage and, buried her there and moved to another room. That's why whenever they're doing excavations, you're going to run in to the bones, which is a very important part with the state, is to making sure that we get those bones reinterred in a correct way, and that it's not what people refer to as, well, we're just ripping up graveyards and to salvage the pottery. It'll probably take us anywhere from 3 to 5 years once the excavation starts to produce this as a walk-through site. But what we hope to do is have volunteers from the people that come stay at the park and the public volunteer to help us come down and develop this and stabilize it. So it'll actually be part of the park, and people will be, just regular, we'll call them citizens or visitors, will have a hand in helping us develop this. It's going to be a tremendous site. What we've seen out here literally rivals what you've seen in other parts of the country, in the Four Corners area, Canyon de Chelly, because of this condensed time zone. We have no doubt when we open this area up here, we're going to have perfectly intact ruins with all artifacts still in them. And all those artifacts and everything we take out will be kept on the park and in the town of St. John's.
This particular site is one of the most interesting sites that we've been through this documentary. Think about it, 3 stories. And the park has offered that if you would like to learn a little about archaeology, a little about the people that settled this great nation, and with their supervision, certainly, what an opportunity for a young person that wants to get their hands into archaeology here at St. Joe, right here in Arizona. I think that there's going to be some great finds in this. It's a virgin dig, you might as well say. So here's your chance. Here, don't hold back. If you've ever thought that you might like to gain some experience, get in touch with the name, telephone, or address that you will be given, and let them know your feelings. But this is your chance to pay a little back, perhaps for the success you've had in life, to understanding those that walked this land in the beginning.
Been done by illegal pot digging. And there's more of them. As we work around the ruin, you'll be able to see all of the areas where our pot diggers have worked. We're getting much better response from the folks about it slowing down and stopping. That's one of our main reasons that we want to start the excavation as quickly as possible, because we know habitation's been here since prehistoric times, since ancient times of roughly 1000 BC.
Yeah.
And then all the way back up to what we know as modern Zuni. So probably these ruins will date back that far.
Yeah. I'm sure that as they go down and get into the bottom of this, and that there's no telling what'll be found.
Yeah, that's what's exciting to me is
it
the
could
first overlayer is where you're going to find your really nice, fancy, high material pots.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm interested in is when we really go down and get back into ancient times.
Yes, I want to thank Dr. Barry Fell. I'm going to be pulling from his number 19 volume of Aesop. And there's quite a bit here about Calmacaco down in Mexico, just off the Gulf of Mexico, where Remember the bricks that we once before spoke of? And hopefully someday we're going to go down there and do a documentary that, as Kevin had pointed out, a cross in this area. That naturally, that's Christian influence. It is ironic that here we have a valley, both from Springerville down through St. John, and especially here at Lake Lymon, where you see so much activity, where there was farming, there were modern dwelling places, certainly for that time. And many pictoglyphs, as you have been shown, as we walk this trail of the glyphs. But here, this is what we look for, and this is what is very interesting. As you will see, Kevin pointing out here a cross, and then there that's in the Lake Lymon Park, a very beautiful cross, very distinct. Perhaps this shot would not do it justice, but it is a perfect cross, and it is obvious Christian. And I want to then go, if I can, to a cut from Esoph, number 19. And I want you to see these various crosses that were found on brick in Calmacaco. Now, the interesting thing is that they are precisely a duplicate, you might say, of those found in the Britons in the Paris Basin, which the story you will find covered in detail in volume 19 of Esoph. But what does this mean? I want you to think about it a moment. What does it mean to have these Christian crosses? Now, if we take that has been found at Calmacaco, we believe that approximately the year 127 AD, that men traveled from Europe. They came down into the Gulf of Mexico, no doubt searching for gold. I don't think there would be any doubt about that, precious metals and so forth, and left signs as they built the city there. And of course there were many other peoples. But the age of this cross, approximately, as it is found here in this particular part of Arizona, is something like that we have found in the Rio Grande as well. So what does it mean? It means among all these pictoglyphs that were certainly, I would not call them non-Christian, but not by a Christian scribe, let's say, and then all of a sudden this beautiful artifact just jumps out at you, knowing then that there was an influx. And I'm speaking here and thinking in my mind about the quest that we make for truth. And within that, some would say, well, this is probably just a copy. Well, for someone to have even copied something, they had to see the real thing before they could make the copy. So to me, it makes, naturally, you like that was done by the Christian hand, or whatever the case might be, the authentic. But even if it's a copy, you know there was a commerce there. There was intercourse between commerce, discussion, education, change of ideas, thoughts, and it anchors home the fact that there were many peoples in America. Not just, as many might like to say, the scattered children of Israel, but there were many other peoples in America. We know as we go on to the coast that the Orientals were in the Americas at one time or the other. And we have the Vikings to the north. We have the Irish that, well, they pop up about everywhere. But the priest and scribes, the Levitical priests that traveled up and down the Ohio Valley. And that magnificent Bat Creek stone, I will never forget in making the translation. As one, I would say one of the very few scholars of the Masara left living today, that as the string came to me, there was so much humor in the way that the priest hid his thought that it could not help but bring joy and almost laughter to me, not only for having ciphered the string, but for seeing his humor as he would place this, knowing that no one could understand except a scholar of the Masra, which meant it was a scribe that had credentials that would place him, or God's gift, let's say, up in the Baruch category. So how precious it is as we continue finding this commerce, the intermix, and then we come up with alphabets in later times. We have observed the Cherokees as we have traced this trail. I assure you there is a deeper reason for that as we look at that alphabet, and there's some work being done at this time. So here we have this beautiful cross, a cross that we see up the Rio Grande River, in Calmacaco, and yes, here at Lake Lymon, this beautiful Christian cross, meaning yes, they were here as well. And we thank our Father for the privilege of being able to investigate and to search. For you see, beloved, when you document God's Word in stone, this brings many people to Him saying, no, it's not just a book that some monk dreamed up or something of that nature. No, nothing intended in that remark, certainly. But it lives, it is vivacious, and it proves itself because these scatterings and the migrations are real. If you take just a moment, I thank our Father that we have the ability to travel to beautiful spots such as Lake Lymon, to bring this reality straight to you, whereby you know and understand and can draw from these things. They're our heritage, beloved, straight and pure, our heritage, and how we enjoy bringing it to you.